A New York Times best-selling author, and some people even say I'm a life coach. I started the Daily Dish Show to share my story, my truth, and my journey to vibrancy, and to inspire others to do the same. Because it's all about grit, perseverance, and finding a way despite the odds. It's about embracing the whole woman, not just the parts that are easy to love, and feeding her heart, mind, body, and soul. But I found that this isn't just my story, it's your story too. It's go time. This is the Daily Dish. Hello and welcome everybody. I'm glad you're here. It is the Daily Dish and it is Tuesday, although it feels to me like, I don't know, some other day, just the way it's worked. We've had some ice storm here. We got, if we're going to get cold weather and there's going to be icy stuff and you have to stay off the roads and, electric's going to go out, how about some snow? We've got these sleds in our garage that we haven't used in a few years. We did not get any of that. We just got a lot of ice. And then we got our power turned off for a number of days. But, well, I shouldn't say a number of days, just for like a day and a half. But here we are, we're back. And I'm very glad. We had the generator, of course, and a wood burning stove. So we stayed warm and we had, ta-da, it worked. Anyway, so today is Tuesday and we're going to get busy with several things. First off, if I were 50 again, this is exactly what I would do differently, is right now being published. We'll have a better idea of when that book party is going to be happening, because we're going to have a virtual book party. All the books that we have pre-sold are all going to be signed and sent to you. So you'll have that for the book party. We'll have that. And then, so that's going to be fun. I mean, who doesn't like a good thing? Oh, all right. I guess our chat's not working. We have all kinds of technical things going on. My printer's not working, so whatever. Anyway, I know you're here. I can feel you. I know that you're here. Thank you so much for coming by, even though our chat's not working. Jenny's she'll get it going. You watch. She can always pull a rabbit out of her hat. That's how she rolls. So anyway, let's see turmeric is our supplement of the week. One thing about turmeric that I just absolutely adore, besides the fact that I take it twice a day, I love this stuff. It has over 1,000 studies done on it to, one, prove the efficacy of how well it works as an anti-inflammatory, and two, to show you that it's not going to harm you the way, like, these over-the-counter NSAIDs do. Yeah, people die from having too much of these pain relievers type of thing. So you got to look at that, you got to look at that. What is an alternative? Well, an alternative is something that Mother Nature has provided. So our turmeric that we have from Native Path is absolutely there. It's total turmeric. It is incredible. It is whole and it does the trick. It's the best, most effective one I've ever used. It's encapsulated. So, no, there's nothing getting out into the air. It absolutely 100% works. That's number one. Number two, if I were 50 again, okay. If you haven't gotten the book, you need to get the book. We've ordered extra, so there is still time to get the book. And that's at savingdinner.com/50, the 50 again. Okay. Just letting you know about that. Let's see, what else do I have to tell you about? I think that's it. Quote of the week. Well, I lost the quote of the week, but basically the quote of the week is, I lost it. It's no longer here. Everything is not working. Okay. So the quote of the week, you'll see it on our social. We'll be posting it. And that's what I have for you today. Those two things. Oh, and if you want the momentum app, you can still go get that, savingdinner.com/momentum. This is basically building your goals based on your identity. And sometimes your identity needs to shift in order for you to get what you want. So we show you how to reverse engineer that a little bit. Good idea, right? I think so. That's what works. Alrighty. Let's just talk about, here's and you're gonna laugh at when I tell you what our subject today it's basically called the biology of frustration. And the reason that I wanted to basically do a post on this whole thing, and this is going to later become a larger Substack post, but I wanted to get into the weeds a little bit on this because I saw and figured out for myself that, I get frustrated, and frustration seems to be one of those evil loops. I always talk about loops because that's when we are in a pattern of doing the same things over and over again and somehow expecting different results, which never seems to happen. But the reason I'm calling it the biology of belief is because we want to understand what it is, how it shows up in our lives, what it can teach us, and how to work with it instead of working against it. Because I think that's exactly what we do, That's exactly, at least speaking from personal experience. And I think frustration is one of those emotions that we sort of treat as a nuisance. And as soon as it hits, our instincts are to seek ways to get rid of it, right? We interpret it to mean, oh, you're failing, you're falling behind, you're doing something wrong, and it's all on you. That's how we look at it. That's sort of an instinctual way of just thinking, oh, well, this must be my fault somehow, and I've got to figure this out. Sometimes we even try to outrun it or numb ourselves away from it, power through it. And all the while, what are we doing except shaming ourselves for feeling that way? And I bet you've noticed that. I certainly have. And I think what we need to look at is we need to ask ourselves some questions. What if frustration isn't the problem? Okay. What if we looked at frustration differently, like it's information more than an emotional setback? Because, you know, excuse me if you think I'm wrong, but I'm not. Every single person on this planet feels frustration at some point, some more than others, but it is a thing. It's something that happens. So, biologically speaking, it exists for a reason because frustration is what happens when effort meets resistance. And this is when your brain detects a mismatch between what it is that we want and what's actually happening. That's when frustration sets in. That's that middle ground because there's a collision of value really there because what you want ain't happening. And from a neurological standpoint, frustration lights up the interior cingulate cortex, cortex. That's the region of the brain. It's right here. It's right in the kind of in the middle, the front of the brain. And that's the region of your brain that is involved in error detection and decision making. So it also activates all the stress pathways involving cortisol and adrenaline. So you can see the potential brewing here, right? Your brain is on fire and all those stress chemicals are in there working overtime and throwing more kerosene on the fire. Your frustration is raging and out of control. Anybody ever feel that way? I certainly have. But it's not a moral failing if you've felt that way before at all. It's a signal. It is a signal. In other words, your body is saying something isn't working the way you expected. We need to pay attention. Okay. And this is really important. And that's because frustration isn't random. Okay. It tends to show up when we're overloaded, misaligned, under resourced, or even unclear. It shows up when we're pushing against reality instead of working with it. And it also shows up when our expectations don't match our capacity or when we haven't taken the time to really understand the situation that we're in. And most of us, at least I'm from my perspective anyway, I think most of us have never been taught how to interpret that signal, but we've been taught basically how to override it, right? Not helpful. So, however, biologically, frustration isn't meant to be suppressed. It's meant for a prompt assessment. Again, it's a signal. So when you zoom out, Your frustration's often the first clue that something is out of balance. Maybe you've got too many commitments, too little time for recovery. Maybe there's an unspoken boundary or a goal that no longer fits. Or it could even be a situation that requires a different strategy, not more of the same thing that's going nowhere. In that way, frustration can be one of our very best teachers. So instead of getting frustrated with frustration, what if we got curious about it? I think curiosity is one of our greatest tools in the toolbox. So, what would curiosity do then? How would curiosity handle frustration? Lots of questions. What is this feeling asking me to notice? Where am I forcing something that needs to be rethought? What expectation needs some adjustment? What information am I actually missing here? And what support do I actually need? The research on emotional regulation shows that naming and reframing emotions reduces physiological stress responses. Gosh, we've talked about this probably endlessly because that connection to what's going on inside of your body is always going to trigger some kind of a chemical reaction, a physiological reaction, even a spiritual reaction. This is why it's so crucial that we name what it is that's going on instead of ignoring it and just trying to solve it. And we reframe it, and that will help us to understand what exactly is going on, and it gives us a better perspective. If we just understand simply why we're frustrated, that can lower cortisol and restore a sense of agency. So, in other words, you're going to move from reaction to interpretation and from pressure to perspective. Now, understand too, though, that frustration doesn't mean you're weak willed or you're not doing something right. Oftentimes, it just means you're trying, probably a little too hard, and probably in a system that needs changing. We've all done this. It's the old trying to put a square peg into a round hole. It simply does not work. Have you ever seen that with a baby? You know, when they're sitting there and they're 18 months old or something, they're on the ground and they're trying to put that round peg literally into that square hole and it doesn't work. You've seen how a baby reacts, a toddler, whatever, frustrated. But this for us as an adult, this is where frustration becomes useful because when we can slow down enough to examine it, frustration can guide better decisions. It can help us prune back what no longer belongs. It can help us to renegotiate boundaries that maybe have slipped. It can help us to simplify goals and look at them as a part of creating the identity that we want in our lives. Or we can choose an entirely different approach, whatever. It can be the moment we stop muscling our way through and start working smarter with our biology instead of against it. Isn't that cool? What if we did that? You know, those are the questions we need to be asking ourselves. Remember, curiosity is all, and curiosity's questions is always going to lead us to a creative solution. I believe that with all of my heart. So understand that when frustration hits, it's not saying, you know what, I think you just need to quit this. That's not at all what it's saying. It's saying, I need you to adjust this, right? When we see it that way, frustration isn't something to eliminate, it's something that we listen to instead. Does that make sense? Um, because often it's not telling you that you're failing, it's telling you that you're ready for a course correction. And who in this lifetime doesn't need a course correction at some point? That is not at all weakness at all. On the contrary, it's wisdom. So here's the deal. And again, this is just a short little, essay that I had in my head since I was frustrated yesterday. Next time you're feeling frustrated, stop the self-flagellation and take a beat. Reevaluate your frustration and understand it's trying to teach you something. And if you allow the lesson to come, It will. And guess what? That usually means it's a solution. And there goes your frustration. All right. Well, that was fun. It was a quick show. Nobody's here to talk to because our chat's not working. But oh well. I know you're there and I appreciate you. Thank you for showing up. Don't forget to get the book. Don't forget about the supplement of the week, the turmeric, especially if you have any kind of inflammation. You will love this. And the announcements are at savingdinner.com/announcements. That's where you'll see everything. Okay. Including the quote of the week that I couldn't remember. Peace be with you. I appreciate you. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining me today. You can find me on TikTok for daily tips to help support your most vibrant life. And remember, you are the author of your own story. Until next time.